Hello and welcome to Carbon Market News, your number one source for the news on the carbon markets. Today another video about how to invest in carbon credits. We're going to talk about the KraneShares Global Carbon ETF. You can find this ETF under the ticker KRBN. So what is the Global Carbon ETF? Well, it basically is benchmarked to the IHS Markit's Global Carbon Index, where it tracks the most traded carbon credit future contracts. This is done in the three largest, most liquid global carbon future markets, and these are compliance markets. We're talking about the California Cap and Trade in California, the European ETS in the EU, and the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in the northeastern United States. So the IHS Markit's Global Carbon Index is weighted about 10% of the RGGI, 25% of the California Cap and Trade, and 65%, so the most, in the European Union ETS. So these carbon credits are used in so-called compliance markets. These companies have to buy these carbon credits to offset their CO2 emissions. But this is not for all industries, only for certain industries which fall under the regulation of the region that they're in. So each region, each ETS program has their own industries which it covers. Mostly it's energy generation and heavy carbon industries, I think cement and all these kind of things. These companies have to buy carbon credits to offset their emissions. So if we invest in a carbon ETF, what advantages do we have? First of all, there's a historically low correlation to other asset classes. So it can be a side bet, not really betting on the stock market, more on rising carbon prices and tightening emission regulations. And this year we had already a carbon price in Europe above 60 euros. So like I say in previous videos, the carbon price is supposed to go up. The regulations are supposed to tighten. Everybody wants this, and so you're betting on regulations. You're not betting on the economy. You're not betting on the world trade going well. You're just betting on politicians enacting more regulations, which is kind of, I think, self-fulfilling. If we look at the carbon emission futures, these are European carbon emission futures. Their price has doubled since about a year ago. They have stayed pretty flat until last year, and then now carbon prices are booming. So since the KraneShares Global Carbon ETF tracks these carbon emission futures, especially the EU futures, the price of the carbon ETF has also doubled in about a year, not surprisingly. If we put the two charts one against each other, we can see pretty much a good correlation here. And the question for the future is, where's the price of carbon going? Most sources in political circles and official sources say that it has to be at least $100 per ton, if not $150 per ton of CO2 equivalent by 2030. If you look at the last years, these are the sources from IHS Markit. We can see from 2014 to 2021 that carbon allowances have had an annualized return of 30%, which is extremely high. They have outperformed every other asset class in the last 7 years. So if you have put your money in carbons over the last 7 years, you have made a nice amount of money. I was not fortunate to be in this early, but I'm betting on the future. But this is no financial advice. So again, the carbon ETF, the carbon price, is a bet on politicians making more regulations. And you can ask yourself the question if they will put in more regulations. One last thing I want to have a look at is the claim that it has a low correlation to other asset classes. Here we can see the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, more or less perfectly correlated. GLD, the gold index, not correlated to the other two, and then in gray you can see the carbon ETF, KRBN. and you can see it's not really correlated to other asset classes. There is only one exception that I found. The carbon ETF was not traded in the last, let's say, financial crisis in 2020, March 2020. And you have to look at the carbon emission futures to see that still there was a dip in the carbon emission futures. As every other asset classes, they were sold in a liquidity dip, in the search for liquidity. This was also the place where many people bought a lot of carbon futures. So if it ever goes down like this, you can see from the lowest point, the price has pretty much tripled. So I want to know from you guys, are you buying the carbon ETF? Are you looking at specific companies? I will research more companies in the carbon space. This is a very new space, so it takes me some time. And I have also other work. But if you don't want to miss out on any videos or any infos about the carbon markets, about how to invest in carbon, then smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. I am very glad that you do that. And I want to stress again, this is no financial advice. Make your own decision, guys. I just want to provide a bit of research. So thanks again and see you in another video.